Hey guys, John here with Backyard Maine. Today we're talking about a critical topic that could affect homeowners nationwide. Will outdated wiring lead to your homeowner's insurance being canceled or denied? Recently, a San Francisco Bay Area news station report highlighted that homeowners in California with old knob and tube wiring are facing insurance coverage denials and cancellations. This could be a huge problem for millions of people living in older homes around the country, and it may expand beyond just knob and tube wiring as well. So why the nationwide concern? Insurers aim to minimize risk, and with all the fires, floods, tornadoes, and hurricanes, they're becoming increasingly cautious. Old electrical systems pose an increased risk of electrical fires due to overloading, overheating, and loose connections. Homes with outdated wiring may face higher premiums, policy cancellations, or outright denial of coverage. This trend isn't confined to the Bay Area. It's gaining traction across the whole country. So today we're talking about knob and tube wiring and one other method that's also being targeted. How to identify these wiring methods so you know whether or not you're at risk. And some steps you can take now to make things safer for you and your family and reduce or prevent insurance issues in the future. So what exactly is knob and tube wiring? Knob and tube are single insulated copper wires run within walls, floors, and ceiling cavities. The hot and neutral wires are run individually, not together in a cable, and there's no ground wire. They're supported on porcelain knobs that pass through drilled holes protected with porcelain insulating tubes. This is why we call it knob and tube. The wires were generally spaced between 4 and 12 inches apart for separation and for heat dissipation. And they were often spliced in wall cavities without a junction box. Knob and tube was actually the first standardized wiring method used in homes in the United States and in Canada. It was the standard wiring method installed in new homes and for upgrades from roughly 1880 to the late 1930s. A new wiring method, NM cable, or Romex, which we all know today, was first listed in 1926. But knob and tube was not phased out completely until the 1940s. While knob and tube was very popular for decades, it lacked the safety features of modern wiring methods, such as ground wires and cable sheaths. While it wasn't inherently dangerous, knob and tube can pose safety and fire risks. In the early days, electricity was primarily used for lighting and a few early appliances like toasters or irons. Homes were often wired with just a few circuits in those days. But over time, when more and more electrical products were being introduced, these circuits were often extended and often overloaded. Some people hired electricians to upgrade their wiring, but unfortunately, a lot of other creative solutions were used. I'm sure you've all heard of putting a penny behind a fuse, right? This actually bypasses your overcurrent and short circuit protection, and it has caused many fires over the years. You know, back in the 1980s, I wired several old homes, and every one, if I remember correctly, had pennies behind the fuses. With age and overloading, the insulation on old knob and tube wiring can become brittle and even fall off completely. Most older homes have had wiring additions and may have a combination of knob and tube, BX, and many different versions of Romex as well. I actually made a video on the history of Romex. I'll link that at the end of this video. So how can you tell if you have knob and tube in your home? Well, obviously your home would have to have been built before 1950. But homes built in the 60s and 70s may also be a target. We'll get into that in a minute. Another thing to look for would be two-prong receptacles with no ground. Knob and tube was a two-wire system, so no ground connection was needed. If you have access to your attic, basement, or crawl space, you can look for single conductors wrapped in fabric. They'll be connected with white insulating knobs and run through holes with white insulating tubes. You could find Romex, BX, and knob and tube, which may be active or abandoned. It may be necessary to hire a professional electrician to inspect your system just to be sure. So, what can you do? Well, Before we talk about your options and the other targeted wiring method, let's take about 1 minute and talk about dinner. You know, with everything going on, finding time to cook a decent meal can be tough. That's why I like HelloFresh, the sponsor of today's video. They deliver fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door, making it super easy to whip up a great meal without the hassle. And in 2025, they've made it even better. Their new ready-made meals are perfect for those extra busy days. Chef-crafted dishes ready in just 3 minutes. Plus, if you still want to cook, they have 15-minute meals and prep and bake options to fit any schedule. What I really appreciate is that every meal uses fresh, high-quality ingredients, so you're getting great taste and convenience without compromise. And let me tell you, this stuff is good. Claim your free ready-made meals for life and 50% off your first box at HelloFresh.com with code BackyardMaineRM. One free ready-made meal per box while supplies last with active subscription. 50% off applied as a discount on your first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's free ready-made meals for life and 50% off your first box at HelloFresh.com with code BackyardMaineRM. So what can you do? First, as I mentioned before, verify what wiring is being used in your home so you know whether or not you have a problem. If you do have knob and tube wiring, you'll have a couple of options. You could just wait it out and hope for the best, or you could be proactive. One option is to have your home rewired. I know, that's pretty scary, right? It could cost anywhere between $5,000 and $50,000 depending on the size of your home and especially where you live. As an electrician, I can tell you it's a lot faster to wire a new home than it is to rewire an old one. Some wiring can be fished in, but opening walls and ceilings is most likely going to be necessary. While this is the most expensive option, it's also the best option. You would have a safe, modern electrical system and you would have no risk of insurance cancellation. But the cost may be more than many families can afford. Another option would be to install combination GFCI, AFCI circuit breakers. GFCIs protect against ground faults and AFCIs detect small arcs and actually protect against electrical fires. But there can be a few issues with this option. If you have old wiring in your home, you may also have an old electrical panel, which may need to be upgraded in order to install the new circuit breakers. And some localities require that the whole home be brought up to code when the service is upgraded. And another issue is there's no guarantee that your insurance company is going to accept this as a solution, even though it does reduce your safety and fire risk. It may be best to talk to an electrician in your local area to get an idea of what needs to be replaced and how much it'll cost. While knob and tube is the focus here, another wiring method is under scrutiny as well, and that is aluminum wire. NM Cable, or Romex, also offered aluminum wiring, primarily used in the mid-1960s and 1970s as a cost-effective alternative to copper wire due to a copper shortage. With its increased risk of corrosion, loose connections, overheating, and electrical fires, insurance companies are becoming very cautious with their coverage. The trend of higher premiums and policy cancellations are gaining traction across the country. You can identify aluminum wiring by its gray colored conductors. And just for clarification, we're talking about branch circuit conductors, not your aluminum service conductors that are still being installed today. I hope that you're not affected by any of this, my friends, but I just wanted to get it out there as a heads up so it won't catch anyone by surprise. I'll link that History of Romex video right here for you to watch next. I'm John from Backyard Maine. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.